Tomorrow's vision for active retirees. Probus.
It's my very happy pleasure to introduce Lily Carew. Now, in 1998, Lily dreamed that she was teaching peace, and her life changed completely from then on. Her journey has led her to do whatever it takes to learn about peace within herself and then to see it in the world. Whatever it takes. This has included learning to be a clown and educating herself so as to be able to educate others. She has produced the Real Hope programme of peace, non-violence and anti-bullying for schools, as well as a wide range of programmes designed to empower and instill peaceful behaviours in children. Her education was furthered when she won a scholarship from a worldwide candidacy to study at, and I knew I wasn't going to be able to say this.
Chulalongkorn.
Thank you, University in Bangkok, Thailand, on a Rotary and Peace and Conflict Studies programme. I was going to say a lot more, but I've just spent a fascinating 10 minutes in Lily's company, having just met her. And I just want to introduce her to you as one of the most outgoing, warm, bubbly people that I've met in a long time. And from that very brief time with her, I think we're going to have an absolutely fascinating talk. And I'm looking forward to it immensely.
I've got a mic. Actually, I might just turn this mic up a little bit. Nice to meet you all. How are you all today?
Good.
Are you really good, or are you just saying that to be, No? You're well. That's good. I met a woman called Patricia Cameron Hill, who was a nurse, and her husband and her used to go around hospitals doing humour. They actually know Patch Adams as well. And she used to say, when anybody says, "How are you?" she goes, you say, "Top of the world, it's less crowded up there." And I say it all the time, even when I go to supermarkets. I talk to people in supermarkets. I actually talk in the queue, and I talk to the checkout girls, and I always ask them how they are, because really peace is about connection in actual fact. I'm just going to do a quick summary of my background, but what I'm here to show you today is the initiative of some Rotarians in South Australia who actually invited me last month. It's been very hard to kick off clowning and peace as a integrated way of expressing what peace really is. So it's been a long journey for me, but I might just start off by saying, yes, I did dream I was teaching peace. Prior to that dream, can everyone hear me okay? That mic's facing the wrong way. Yeah, it should be facing up. I used to be on radio. I think we'll put it over here. That's better. So yes, prior to that, I actually was trained as an economist, and I worked as a market analyst for about 10 years until I saw the light, And when I had this dream, it seemed to me impossible to teach peace, because in the school curriculums at the moment, they do have a war and peace studies, but the vision I had was actual curriculum based in values, universal values, and that hasn't happened in the curriculum yet. And at the time I was living in Canberra, and I ended up moving down to Melbourne, and I was only 5 minutes from La Trobe University, and I remember sitting there thinking, what is it I want to do? And the only word that came to my mind was peace. And so I Google searched. This is how I've mapped out my career. I Google searched peace, and I found Helen Caldicott. Does anybody know of Helen Caldicott? Yeah. She was an anti-nuclear activist, and she's still going strong. But she was, you could put her as a housewife, ironing away, and hearing about nuclear issues. And she decided to take the initiative and form Physicians for Social Responsibility, which ended up with 40 chapters around the world. So when I Googled, I found her name, and I decided to make contact with her. So I sent her an email, and in an afterthought, I decided to send my CV, and Helen responded. And as a result of that, I decided to drive 2,000 kilometre round trip up to Matcham, up past Gosford, and meet her. And it was in that meeting that she was sort of working out whether I had any knowledge of, you know, the actual state of play around the world. And of course, at that time, I didn't have much knowledge. And my knowledge today would be, I would say, average. There's an enormous amount of information out there. But nonetheless, it was through Helen. Helen told me that she did a protest march in New York with Patch Adams. Do people know of Patch Adams? Yes. Yeah, he's a famous clown doctor. Robin Williams played him in the film. And her and Patch apparently walked naked down the street to sort of express the naked truth about nuclear weapons. Now, personally, I think that's probably the most courageous thing I've ever heard. Because how many of you could walk down the street naked, you know, for something you believe in? I reckon that's a sign of courage. Oh, there's a few over here.
There are some real swingers in this.
Are there? What do you mean by swingers, darling? So anyway, Helen inspired me, and I drove back down to Melbourne, and it turns out there was a course at La Trobe University in Peace Studies, and I had the privilege to meet Dr. Tom Weber, who is one of the world's experts in peace. He actually studies Gandhi predominantly. I actually had a dream about Gandhi. Gandhi did come to me in a dream, and the feeling I had in the dream was being seen. That's all I can say about that dream. But I've definitely felt the inspiration of be the change you wish to see in the world, which was Gandhi's vision. So I spent a year down at La Trobe studying politics of non-violence, looking at environment, you know, human rights, economics, as well as mediation, which is, I think mediation is something that's incredibly important. Conflict resolution. Most of us are not trained when we're young in school on how to resolve conflict. And how many of us have relationships in this room, you don't have to put your hands up, where you're not talking to someone, or, you know, or someone drives you crazy, you know, and you don't know what to do with them. Conflict resolution is about a win-win. It's not about a win-lose where one is right and the other is wrong. It's about really learning how to hear one another. And so when I studied mediation, I realised that we're actually dealing predominantly with misunderstanding. And I'd even extrapolate that out to the world stage. A lot of misunderstanding. I won't go into details here about some of the misunderstandings at the international level because of time, but just to say that that was part of the course, and it ended up coming into the program that I wrote. Now, once I left university, I actually wrote to Patch Adams, and I just thought maybe one day we could meet. I threw in a few photos of me as a clown, and I just thought maybe we'd meet one day. And he ended up getting his brother to ring me from Washington, and I was invited to Russia for 2 weeks to clown with he and 40 clowns. Now, what was for me funny about this was I had 5 weeks to raise $7,500. You know, it was like, it did definitely seemed impossible for me to raise that sort of money. But I met, interestingly enough, down in Canberra, a clown. We clowned at Canberra Hospital, and she said, "Why don't you ring this other clown that we met at Canberra Hospital, who's very wealthy?" So I rang her and I said, "I'm not asking you to give me $7,500, but if you wouldn't mind giving me a bridging loan, that would be great." I didn't have much. I was a student, so I couldn't even raise a loan. So she said, "I'll get back to you in 24 hours. And to my amazement, she rang me back and said, "Me and my mother-in-law are going to pay for you to go to Russia." Now, what I found out was last year, I think, who this mother-in-law was, because I didn't know at the time who she was. Pardon me. I opened up, can you believe, a positive thinking book randomly, and I found this woman's name in the book who sponsored me to Russia, and it turns out it was Rupert Murdoch's sister. Had I known that, I could have had peace education programs across Australia. But anyway, that's the way it goes. She passed away, sadly. But nonetheless, what a beautiful thing she did. And I went across to Russia, and it was there that I saw that clowns are actually peace. So when I talk about integrating peace education with clowns, it's actually not a far cry, because clowns offer unconditional love to everyone. We learn to love everyone. You don't even learn, it's actually natural. It's natural to love everyone. Now, I can sit on the street with, and I have done, because I clown on streets as well, you know, you can sit with anyone. Like, it could be someone who's a drug addict, it could be someone who's an alcoholic, could just be someone who's lonely, you know, and what you see is they're all gorgeous. Everyone is gorgeous when you are in that sort of space of unconditional love. And I know that might be hard for some people to see, because in our society we're trained to not look at each other We walk past and people get very isolated very easily. So as a result of my experience of Russia, I ended up writing the Real Hope program. I came back to Australia and felt inspired to write a peace education program, but something that would be effective, not just a nice woolly program, but I wanted something that would work. So I wrote Real Hope, which is an acronym for responsibility, empathy, awareness, love, honesty, oneness, peace, enjoyment. And if I can get 9 weeks in the schools, it'll be Real Hopes with an S on the end, which is service. Because when you start to align all your values, and these are universal values, they're not cultural, you'll naturally give service. Service is not just being good. Service is a natural unfolding when you're in alignment with your own truth. And this is what really creates peace, is being who you really are. The ancient philosophers, to thine own self be true, I would say is the absolute kernel of peace. If you're being fake or false, or you're trying to keep up appearances, or you want to be liked, you'll never find peace. It's about self-acceptance of who you are because you're unique. And when you think about it, there's no one else on this earth like you. And how amazing are you? And it just blows my mind when I meet someone for the first time and there's no one else like them. So I just felt I'd share a little bit about that. I'll just say very quickly, I have travelled the world as a world peace clown. I went to 20 countries and clowned on the streets with all nationalities and ultimately came back with the feeling that the world is my family. I've also been around Australia with a tent, offering my work, how desperate I've become, for free or by donation. And it's peace and sustainability, because you can't have sustainability in the world until you have inner peace. Because much of our materialism is actually governed by a lack of peace, where we're grabbing for things to make us feel good. So I just thought I'd just give you a quick overview. I'm going to now show you some presentation as quickly as I can, so sorry. I'll just find my little... Where's the...
On the lectern?
On the lectern? Okay, no, I think I've probably put it there. All right, I'm going to show you just a case study of what two people did. This was Judy and John Stafford down at the Rotary Club Narracourt in South Australia. They invited me to come last month and they had a full program for me. They had me meeting with lots of Rotary clubs in Adelaide and some South Australian Rotary clubs that were in the rural areas. They also had me organised to go to schools and do peace education, but simply looking at the value of peace. My program's a full program of Real Hope. So this was the peace component. We also had community building with the Narracourt Migrant Resources Centre with Hazara refugees, which was really interesting, and Longridge Nursing Home. So I went into to meet the wise ones, the elders I call them, in the nursing homes, who are often, there's a lot of clowns in there. And Happiness for Life I did with Tennyson College. So that was with teachers. Because if we want to integrate values of peace and positive well-being in schools, teachers themselves also need to evaluate their own sense of happiness and well-being. If you're an unhappy teacher, you're going to be quite controlling with children in the classroom. And I did a little clowning workshop. Actually, Judy and John and a few others came along and they dressed up as clowns and I taught them how to be clowns. And then we had ABC Radio had some interest, so we did a 15-minute slot with them and with a couple of newspapers. So the idea there is not so much, isn't that great? It's about promoting the thought of peace is not only, it's not an ideal, it's a reality when we choose it. Okay, I won't read all of this, just a little bits of it. So what I found impressive by Judy and John was the power of one. It was just one idea where John thought, oh, maybe we'll just take a risk and invite this clown, to come to Narracourt. So I did, I came. We actually ended up having direct face-to-face contact with 700 people through me being a clown and 5,000 people through the extension of media. So that was in a week and a half that I was there. Don't know why that's not, oh, here we go. There's a few Rotary clubs that I visited and had a chat with. And this is just the Rotary Club of Brighton. Looking at schools is very important. I see it as absolutely imperative that we start with primary age children and even go younger to start to model these peaceful behaviours. So this is Narracourt Primary School. I just did a presentation. That's me as a clown, just as a clown, in case you wonder who the clown is. And what I tell the kids is that the fool, which is the archetype that I use as my character, is the one that steps off the cliff, you know, and something happens. And I actually live this way too. I don't have a fixed address. I literally go from house to house, house sitting or what have you. I'm trusting life. So I'm not sort of in a space of fear of life. I'm in a great space of let's embrace life and see what happens. And that doesn't mean being overly risky or taking foolish risks, although I'm a fool. It's really about exploring life. So I talk to the children about real hope as the fool's gold that they have within themselves, which is the values that they actually have naturally. And it's to connect to our inner values when we're deciding what we think about life. Like responsibility, for example, means the ability to respond. You can do something. So that's empowerment. Empathy is simply standing in someone else's shoes. So when you're sitting in judgment of someone, you might think, well, how would I feel if I was them? You know? Awareness is simply opening your eyes. It's noticing. Becoming informed would be another aspect of awareness. Love is just simply loving people. Love. It's my favourite. And I say to the kids, it's not romantic, you know, it doesn't have to be romantic. I said, you love your parents, you know, you love your friends. This is the glue of life. Honesty is